It's Thursday, April 24th. I wasn't sure if I was going to do a video today, but I guess this is becoming a habit and it's kind of like a therapy session almost. I do this in the morning after I eat my oatmeal blend with some avocado, drink my coffee, and then I like to do this almost straight ahead with very limited research. If you watch my other videos, I don't do a ton of research, whether I'm speaking about music or anything else. I like the stream of consciousness. Like, hopefully I sound somewhat educated and not just a scrambled brain Looney Tune. But today I'll try to keep it a little bit shorter. I'm going to discuss 10 movies instead of music. If you watch some, or if you explored my channel at all, I have 15 screenplays that I wrote since 2020, three features, and like maybe 12-hour long screenplays, about 60 to 70 pages. So it's always been a goal of mine to write a screenplay that actually gets purchased and made into a movie. It's one of my dreams. I've loved movies since I was a kid, like everybody else. I remember begging one of my cousins. He had like the old laser disc system, and I begged him to let me watch Goodfellas when I was really little. For some reason, that movie just was like so cool to me as a kid. E.T. I'm all over the place. I can watch horror movies. I can watch any genre, and my screenplays are like that. I got science fiction. I got horror, really disturbing horror, psychological horror, gory horror, because I love that stuff. Yeah, it could freak you out, and sometimes it does affect me. The last movie I saw that really affected me like that was the movie Midsommar, and it just creeped me out for a long time. So maybe that one kind of turned me off the horror movies for a little bit. But I love action movies, political dramas. I could watch anything that if it's got an original tone, original voice with the writing and directing, cinematography. So I'm going to list 10 movies here from maybe starting in the late 60s through the 70s. There's some 80s movies, some 90s stuff. And I don't think I picked any movies from 2000 or beyond. I just noticed that now. That's kind of weird. But there's plenty of great movies from the last 20 years. For some reason, I picked 10 movies that starts from the late 60s and then goes all the way to maybe the late 90s. Maybe those, because I was still like a well, developing artist. I still am a developing artist now. I'm in my 40s now. But maybe those really shaped my consciousness more than more modern movies that, well, it's like the Joseph Campbell thing about there's only what, like seven stories. every every movie can be broken down to like some other myth from religion or ancient Greek philosophy. There's only so many stories with so many character arcs, so many plot lines that you can develop. Like maybe movies like Inception and Memento kind of push those boundaries, but it's still basically a man searching for meaning. Or if you never watched the Joseph Campbell series where he talks about myths and how myths are carried through generations, go check it out. It's probably the best. If you just want to listen to somebody speak for 5 hours, whatever it is, listen to that because I thought it was really good. It was a big inspiration for me as a screenwriter. That's probably the best thing I ever listened to because you want to be original and you want to be innovative in your writing, whether it's a screenplay or a music album. You want to have some kind of a unique voice, but it's almost impossible. Are you going to come up with some new storyline that no one's ever come up with before? I think it's more about just finding a new way to present those heroes' quest, as he termed it, like stuff like that. So yeah, I wasn't planning to speak about him, but if you've never heard of Joseph Campbell and his book about myths, I forget what it's called exactly. Go check that out because that was the most, maybe the most important thing I've ever listened to. I have the actual interview where he talked for like 5 episodes about certain myths and stuff, and he's just packed with all these crazy stories and stuff. And he speaks very like relaxed. I love the way he speaks. So I guess I'll just get right down to this before I get too scrambled brained again. I wanted to share the movie posters because I love movie posters, and it's cool to look at movie posters through the years as they changed and stuff. So I'll just get right down to it. The first one is a pretty popular movie. I think most people at least have heard of this. Have heard of Stanley Kubrick. It's based on Arthur C. Clarke. I actually read the book during like the early stages of 2020. I found a book at a thrift store, like an early version of this, and reading the book was kind of a different experience. He's one of those people that just creates this atmosphere that you can't escape. He's almost more of a horror director than science fiction. That's how I would term him because he freaks me out with his stuff. Clockwork Orange, 2001. They're both movies that just creep me the hell out. And that maybe he's not even intending to do that, but the way he does his cinematography, his symbolism. I'm a nerd with his stuff too. When I watch one of his films, even if it's like the 10th to 20th time I've seen 2001, I'll notice something different, and like I'll have to go on YouTube and listen to someone explain it to me. He's one of those directors, like him, the Coen brothers. You watch one of their movies, and then you're like, I think I get it. But then you listen to somebody else more educated speak about the metaphors, the symbolism, and all that stuff, and you're like, wow, how did I miss that? How did I miss that? His movies do that to me, and maybe I haven't seen all of them. Barry Lyndon, I don't think I've seen that one. I think that's Kubrick. But even the one with Nicole Kidman was kind of interesting. The Shining's crazy. If he only made like those three movies, he'd be a legend. Clockwork Orange, The Shining, and 2001. Like, they're all in my top, whatever, some of my favorite movies. I'll just say it like that. So I speak about movies throughout my book because that's how my brain works. I'm a hermit. I don't get out much. I live through screens, just like he talked about in Clockwork Orange. He talked about in 2001 that back then he was like almost warning people how screens would become a part of social engineering, lead to a digital revolution before everyone had a computer in their home. And just that rapid expansion of technology, like, he's probably in on this stuff. Even Arthur C. Clarke wrote about that stuff. The advent of technology will totally revolutionize propaganda modes and, well, yeah, you could say mind control in a way. Social engineering is a form of mind control where you try to put thoughts in people's heads politically, religiously, socially, and that stuff creeps me out even more than like gory horror films. The way people can manipulate you psychologically is very creepy to me. And 2001 as a movie, like I guess I'm discussing more of it as a theme almost, the themes of the movie more than the actual movie and direction. But yeah, it's a masterpiece. Like 1968, he's using weird effects that probably no one ever even thought of before. So he's a true innovator, I would say. I don't know a ton about him. I can't really state his biography or anything, but um, even Doctor Strangelove, I remember learning about that in high school, thinking that was like a crazy movie. So yeah, he's a big part of my life as an artist in general. When I write my screenplays, I don't think I really try to be like him or anything, but when it comes to screenplay writing, I think it's just a mishmash of all the movies you've ever seen, and you're trying to just create something original based on that stuff. But he's one of the biggest ones, I would say, in terms of just an influential brain. Just he explored things that I like to explore in my music. The next one is way lighter. I don't want to pick only psychological, crazy movies. In my book, I said there's like two perfect American movies, uniquely American, and weirdly, they're both involving baseball. And I talk about both of them in this video. The first one I'll talk about is a classic movie from 1976, Bad News Bears. Paramount Pictures. Michael Ritchie was a director, I believe. I think a lot of people have seen this or the Billy Bob version from I don't know what year that one came out, but it's just a classic, man. I could watch this once a month and it would go by like so quickly because I love the entire movie flows perfectly. It's one of those movies. I don't know. It brings me back to like my childhood. I didn't grow up in the '70s. When I was playing little league baseball, I was probably like I don't know mid '90s or early '90s. So this was a time period in America that I didn't really experience the '70s, the late '70s. I didn't experience that part of American history, like whatever it was like back then. Um, but I love this movie. Like I know the language in it might kind of offend people. There's some racial language that's you know if they remade this movie now, maybe they want to use those. There's one of the kids like says some racial stuff, but it, regardless, if you look at the entire movie in general, you can't help but root for that kid later. It's a different kind of look at racial relations in America when kids are like the ones discussing these things. But it's a great movie, man. I love the storylines, the symbolism in it. I think the main theme that I get from the Bad News Bears is like, yeah, you want to be successful in life. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever your path of happiness is in life, you have the right to go follow it, and nobody has the right to get in your way. That's like almost like the "Don't Tread on Me" American utopian dream, I guess. And to put that theme in the setting of a little league baseball team who's kind of like the underdog works on so many levels because you want to achieve whatever your success is. It doesn't have to be financial. Whatever your successful dream is, um, I think the main message I get is it's also important of how you get there. The journey to get there is very important. So it's a Gordon Gecko versus how the Bad News Bears kind of their philosophy. Which side are you on? The Gordon Gecko side, where you just want to crush people to get where you want to be in life? Or do you want to be more on that Bad News Bears level where even if you lose in the championship game, am I really spoiling the movie? I don't think so. If you haven't seen it, sorry for spoiling a movie from 50 years ago. But even if you lose, sometimes, and it sounds cheesy, like I'm saying this, it sounds like I'm a loser. Even if you lose, you can still be successful in the way you act. I think that's a good message for any generation to take with them. So I love the movie. Besides all that corny thematic stuff, like it's just a funny movie, man. It's funny. The acting's great. The writing's just amazing. I think it's like it's a perfect American, like almost fairy tale or American morality tale. That's what I would kind of term it like. And this movie, the next one, it's it takes place in the 70s, the same time period. Maybe I just wish I was born and I grew up as a teenager in the 70s or something. But this movie was made Universal Pictures and Gramercy Pictures in 1993. I've seen it like 100 times. I think a lot of people know this one, Dazed and Confused. It is a uniquely American movie, but I think anyone could really watch it. I think it's also taking place in California. I could be wrong about that. Where's the Moon Tower? Is that I want to say this movie was in California, just like Bad News Bears, but I'm not actually sure if that's true or not, or if they even say where the movie takes place. But yeah, it's a cool look at high school back then, back in the 70s, and it's just cool, man. I wish I was cool like that. I tried to be like that when I was a teenager, like, because I was watching this when I was a teenager, and when I was hanging out, like I wanted to be like these characters because they were just the cool kids, you know. So um, yeah, I would recommend Dazed and Confused. If you've never seen it, it's one of those movies that when it ends, you don't want it to end. You want to stay in this world. At least for me, when Dazed and Confused finishes, I think it ends with them like going to see Aerosmith concert. Like I want to follow the rest of their lives. Like I want to be a part of this world for like I know it sounds sad and pathetic, but yeah, the atmosphere of that movie and the characters and the music is crazy good. I forgot to mention the Bad News Bears has a great soundtrack too, but maybe all these movies feature music as well that are just perfect for a time in America. Although the Bad News Bears is kind of like the classical music. Every time I hear that, I just think of the Bad News Bears. But Dazed and Confused is more of just classic rock soundtrack. And there's so many great actors in this movie. It's a classic American movie, but you don't have to be from America to relate to it. Like it's just there's so many memorable lines and scenes. They're packing their muscle car trunk with beers, just driving around. And just the whole subculture of high school life and the different cliques that you get involved with. Like there's a lot of movies like that. The Breakfast Club, like every high school movie kind of goes through that same exploration of the different politics of high school. This one's just more fun though. It's just more fun. The characters are cool, and it's just a party, man. They're just partying the whole time. So I can't recommend that enough. Dazed and Confused is one of my favorites. This is okay. So this is the other baseball movie that I think is a perfect American movie, uniquely American. But of course, anyone can enjoy this. If you're not from America, it doesn't matter. And it's from the '80s, 1989. Universal Pictures, Carol Co. Pictures, and I believe the director is Phil Alden Robinson. I took a little bit of notes, but I don't want to just so I kind of give these people credit, I guess, because I think this is a perfect story. You know, I forget. I'm going to add the one thing I forgot to look up was somebody actually wrote this book, and it's based on a book, Shoeless Joe or something. And I forget the author's name. I apologize. Is it Kinsella? I don't know, man. I should have done a little bit more research, but I'll put it in the description because I did buy this book and I never read it, but I plan to at some point. It's based on a book, and I think this movie is just so underrated. in terms of like an American fairy tale, I don't think there's anything that comes close to Field of Dreams. I watched it recently, right when baseball was about to begin. I watched the Bad News Bears again, and I watched Field of Dreams, and they're both still like classic movies. I speak about Field of Dreams a couple times in my book because I don't know, it always gives me that look into my childhood that's kind of cool, the nostalgia of it, and it is kind of a uniquely American movie, maybe even more than Bad News Bears, but it's a fairy tale. Like if I was a screen like I consider myself a screenwriter, even though I never sold anything. I still consider myself a screenwriter because I put in the time and the effort in it. If I took a script like Field of Dreams to a production company, I was like, yeah, this dude, he hears voices one day and he's like telling him to build a baseball field in his cornfield. So then he meets James Earl Jones. They're gonna think I'm the Stone Kid from like Dazed and Confused. I guess because this was based on a book, there was a prior like, all right, we can adapt this to a movie, make it like a Disney fairy tale, and yeah, I think it works. For me, it works on every level. I could watch this movie all the time. Acting's good, the writing's good. There's a little bit of politics mixed in there, like lost innocence and regrets you have through life. And there's a lot of good themes. The ending is kind of weird. Like the ending of this movie is really just shot continuously, starting from like the stupid hot dog thing that almost causes his kid to choke, the Moonlight Grand thing, and just goes from there. The ending is kind of weird to this movie, but yeah, Bad News Bears. These are all uniquely American movies almost. The last three, Bad News Bears, Dazed and Confused, and Field of Dreams, they're uniquely American movies, but the messages are universal, even though the setting and the characters are American. I feel like a global audience could appreciate all these movies. I listed this one next because there's a chapter in my book where I compare Field of Dreams to this movie. Everyone knows this movie. The Godfather, Francis Ford Coppola, 72, Paramount Pictures, Film Flex. When I was speaking about music albums, I always say that if an album goes longer than 45 minutes, it's usually going to be bloated and stuff. So I kind of contradicted myself yesterday because a couple of those albums go for like an hour. Aurora, What Happened to the Heart from 2024, it's like an hour long. I listened to it again last night. So sometimes an album would go for like an hour and it's not bloated. But a lot of times, in my experience, when I'm listening to like an album, a popular album, and it goes for like over an hour, it's going to be bloated with some filler stuff. I don't want to talk about the chapter in my book where I discuss The Godfather versus Field of Dreams because I don't want to give everything away, my feelings on it. But it's a funny look at those two movies. Um, I feel like The Godfather is kind of overrated. I'll say that much. And it's 3 hours long. It's just too damn long, man. Part two is probably just as long, and I kind of enjoyed part two better. I'm not saying The Godfather is a bad movie. I just feel like in terms of all the lists where they always put Godfather number one or in the top five somewhere, and like best films ever made. I don't know. I don't really see it like that. I rarely ever get the urge to sit down, watch the entire Godfather in one sitting. Like it's very hard to do. I realize these actors are amazing. The director is really good. The story's good. It's just something about it. I lose interest very quickly in it. And there is a chapter in my book that's actually it's a funny look at Field of Dreams versus The Godfather. They're completely contrasting looks at like American life or just life in general, and that's why I wanted to include it. I'm not saying it's a bad movie or anything. I've seen The Godfather a number of times. Maybe I've never watched it like without pausing it at all. I feel like I get bored with it by the first hour and a half or so. So it's a tough movie to get through. You have to have some patience and stuff. It's very subtle and stuff like that, which is cool. But sometimes I just get bored with it, to be honest. Um, I guess that's all I really wanted to say. I wanted to include it because there is a chapter in my book where I spend a couple pages speaking about this. My opinion, Field of Dreams is like a much better movie. Maybe I'm doing it to kind of troll people, but I do genuinely, I think so at least, I genuinely believe Field of Dreams is a more entertaining movie overall. And I'll just leave it at that. The next one is from the 80s, but I never watched it in the 80s. I never knew this movie existed until I learned of the soundtrack, which is all like 80s punk songs. But I watched this, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. Repo Man, 1984, Universal Pictures, Alex Cox. Love this movie. 80s movies, in terms of just weirdness and satire, I don't think it gets any better than Repo Man. Just a weird look at, well, again, maybe the theme of this video is like American movies. Although 2001 has nothing to do with like American society really. Repo Man to me is just, it's a satire the way satire should be done. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which is probably my problem with The Godfather. It takes itself a little bit too seriously and stuff. It's just very, you want to talk about drama, religious drama, religious symbolism, that whole baptism montage, uh, family drama. The Godfather takes itself way too seriously. Repo Man is a satire that just makes fun of everything, American culture, consumerism, and the soundtrack's awesome. I never even knew this movie existed until I found the soundtrack. I was writing a screenplay called Seeds of Anarchy. I wrote that in like 2020, and this was an influence on it. Maybe I found it around that same time. Seeds of Anarchy. I have a video on that if you want to go watch that later. I made like pitches of all my screenplays on another part of my channel. And Seeds of Anarchy is, it's all about the 80s punk scene. It's kind of a satire. It's kind of a fairy tale as well. So it's a blending of a lot of these same themes that I'm talking about today. Seeds of Anarchy, it follows a group of punk kids that get in some trouble in the city with the mob. So they get the hell out of the city and make it to Georgia, where they have to work at a farm to survive. I don't want to explain the whole thing all over again, but Repo Man is definitely an influence on me in terms of the style, the punk aesthetic, and some of the themes in the movie, as well as the Coen brothers, some of their stuff from Raising Arizona, which is another movie I could have spoken about more, and some other SLC Punk, which is a later one. That's a pretty good satire, kind of, or at least a look at the punk ethos or something, you know. Repo Man, if you never checked it out, uh, the dialogue is so unique. The writing is very unique. Acting is unique. Go check it out. It's one of the best 80s movies that I wish I would have found earlier in my life because It's been inspirational to me in my screenwriting. And this one's also from, oh no, this is from the 90s, 1990, written and directed by Alan Moyle. And I watched this maybe 2 years ago again, and it still holds up pretty well. Christian Slater had some cool stuff back then. Heathers, this one, those are the two I kind of remember the most. There was another one where he's like a skateboarder and he's trying to like solve some murder. There's some weird ones from the 80s. 80s movies are just weird to watch now. Not saying they're bad. It's just watching 80s movies now is like a different experience. If you grew up back then, I said I was born in 81. So, yeah, I remember Harry and the Hendersons, Howard the Duck, all those weird ass 80s movies that just kind of stick with you. This one is another like high school drama, and it's I like it. I picked this to speak about. I used a quote from it in my book, and the main theme of this movie, in my opinion, is just censorship. Really, like censorship and phoniness, and not just in terms of like what his character is going through, like the high school political nature of high school. Just in general, man, you get to deal with a lot of phony people in life, and you get to deal with people who try to censor you and try to misinterpret your language. I've spoken about this too much, but this movie kind of goes into that. How most people just want honesty and transparency. People who look for drama and look for bullshit like that, like I don't understand it. It just adds levels of nonsense to your head. Why do you want to add that to your reality? Or why do you want to push everyone got everyone has bullshit that they have to deal with on a daily basis. Everyone has frustrations, regrets, and feeling like they missed out on something and whatever. Everyone has to deal with stuff like that. So nobody needs to have your shit put on them as well. It's one of those type of deals, I guess. This movie's cool because it kind of explores some of these topics of censorship and kind of bucking the system and just saying whatever the fuck you want, right? Like you just want to speak openly and freely without somebody trying to uh, regulate your speech or your thoughts and stuff like that. And again, that's kind of a uniquely American thing, but not really. Like I think everyone in the world kind of wants that, where nobody is looking over their speech and their thoughts and stuff like that. It's very similar theme in a lot of movies. Science fiction stuff explores this, like Minority Report, which I could have listed that movie as well. In terms of science fiction, Minority Report is also one of my favorites. But Pump Up the Volume, it seems like an 80s movie because it's early 1990 and it's relatable to a lot of those John Hughes stuff and movies with high school culture and all that stuff. If you've never seen it, it might be hard to find. I think I had to find it like some weird place. I tried to buy it on Amazon. I don't think they had it on there. But it's a classic movie. I love it. The dialogue's funny. Christian Slater's really good in it. Um, I don't really know the soundtrack that well. But I'm sure it's got like some 80s stuff in it. And yeah, go check it out if you forgot about that one. I forgot about it until a couple years ago. And I was like, yeah, what was that movie when the dude like he does like a radio show from his house, and then I had to watch it again because it still holds up pretty well. All right, this one, it's a horror movie that I don't think I need to speak about too much, man. Kathy Bates is awesome. I love Kathy Bates, man. She's probably the best villain. in any movie I've ever seen. And I believe she won Best Actress for this, and she deserved it, man. In February of this year, I was kind of finishing up my last chapter of my book, and I was like, I needed to take a break, so I was looking for a movie to watch, and I found Misery, and I was like, all right, let's watch this again. And I never noticed how good she really was until I watched it again a couple months ago. Her role is just absolutely just sensational, man. I kind of list my favorite villains in movies and television, and to spoil that list, she's number one. There's scenes in that movie where she just creeps me out like crazy, and I love the symbolism of this movie. It's Rob Reiner, and of course, written by Stephen King from 1990 as well. Castle Rock Entertainment, Nelson Entertainment, Columbia Pictures. So as I was finishing up my last chapter of my book and about to go into the editing process in February of this year, I watched this movie and it just connected to me so powerfully, man. Because he's a writer. James Caan's character is a writer, and she's kind of obsessed with him. And it goes into a lot of different weird psychological things, and the acting is just so good. Like, I want to write movies like this where there's not a lot of production. Most of the movie is just their conversations and their battle of wits almost, and the conflict between her and him. That's like the whole movie is like almost in the bedroom where he's trying to heal him, or well, she's not really trying to heal him, I guess. She wants to like keep him there as like a toy or a puppet or something. It's a great movie. If you've never seen Misery, I've never read the book, but I probably should. I'm sure the book is great. It's weird I never got into Stephen King books, but I'm sure I would like this a lot because I love this movie. My favorite horror movies, I have to list this just because of Kathy Bates. The directing's great, the writing's great, and I can't say it enough. Like, I'm glad I watched this again recently because I forgot how good it was. It's a simple story, but it's just so well done. And yeah, Kathy Bates is awesome. She's just the best villain of all time. All right, next is another. These are all popular movies, right? I don't think I'm saying anything obscure like indie movies. There's a couple indie movies I could have picked, but maybe I found later in life. Drugstore Cowboy, I think I talk about. I talk about The Matrix in my book a lot. I love that movie. Uh, the next one is from the 80s, and I talk a little bit about this movie because I think it instantly makes people happy thinking about this movie. It's a cool look at. Wait, did I just show the wrong one? Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and it's from 1986. This is John Hughes, 1986, Paramount, United International Pictures. I don't talk a whole lot about this movie in my book, but I kind of go into kind of you reach stages of life where you look back at your regrets and maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have done something differently in my path of life. Like I've already said, the path I've taken to get to this point is so fucking weird. Almost like I'm just going with the flow in life, which is good and bad. You don't want to be like the wandering wandering soul where you're not really sure um, where your security is going to come from. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm just going with the flow right now, and maybe I've always kind of been like that, or at least in my adult life, maybe. I don't know. Ferris Bueller kind of connects to this theme, like, and it's just a fun movie. Like, it puts a smile on my face just thinking about all the weirdness, the music in it. Um, the principal, whoever that guy's name, Rooney, he's funny, man. He's probably the best character. And I don't know, it's a cool look at 80s American life. I don't know. Is there a lot of metaphors in this movie and stuff? I would say so. It's a look at it. He talks about it, isms, capitalism, socialism, fascism, whatever ism you want to call it. And I write about that in my book a lot. I don't like labeling stuff by that. I talk about this more in depth, but like if you say that you're a supporter of communism, what does that mean? Like, are you like a Soviet Union supporter? Are you like a naked hippie that lives on a commune with other naked hippies? Communism can mean so many different things. Are you a supporter of capitalism? Are you like a Gordon Gekko disciple? Crush the competition and whatever, sabotage? Or does capitalism mean more like the free market? And it's all perception based. One of my albums is called Perceptions, and it goes into that. These isms don't mean shit as you go more and more levels of education. More fancy words are put into your head. Existentialism, nihilism, all this crap that I use too much myself. And it's like, after a while, you're just like, what do these things even mean anymore? Even utilitarianism, it's all based on your perception of what that word means. It's like fundamentalism. If you're a fundamentalist of the Bible, like everyone who reads the Bible is going to interpret something differently. People read the United States Constitution and people interpret it differently based on whatever. So I don't like having isms in any conversation because it doesn't help me learn who you really are as a person when you say something like that. How is this related to Ferris Bueller? Well, there is a line in that movie where he says something like that. Don't be so concerned with isms or your image, your social media image. You could also connect it to that in the modern world because people freak out over their social media profiles, and it's almost like it's an additional identity you have to fake. I'm not saying everyone uses social media like that, but a lot of people do. And I like Ferris Bueller because it goes into that. You're going to waste your life trying to figure out all these complicated existential debates and stuff, existential dread. I use these terms way too much. Maybe I realized that after writing this book, that I use these terms like way too much. Like I even make fun of myself because it's true. Like I'd rather go back to my like 11-year-old brain where I don't have to state my political allegiances or state whatever. I'm just a human being and that's it. Yeah, of course, this conversation is way more complex than what I'm portraying right now. There's a reason why people join political parties and do that stuff. Like, I get that, man. But I think people take it to unhealthy levels and box themselves into these isms, whatever your ism is. And even within an ism, people are going to fight each other. Like, that's not what my ism means. No, my ism means this. You're interpreting the ism incorrectly. And then whatever. Schism. Yeah, I'm going way off here. But once I get to 40 minutes, I kind of lose my train of thought a little bit. All right, so let's end this with one of my favorite movies. Probably, I said I don't like making lists, and I don't. But this is probably my favorite movie. and it came out 1998. Vincent Gallo did the music, directed it, and starred in it. Also, there was somebody named Alison Bagnall. Hopefully, I'm saying your name right. As a screenwriter, I think somebody else spoke about this. The color temperature, just the way it looks, is I love it, man. It's probably a reason that I instantly connected to it. From the first couple scenes, it's like a different viewing experience. Maybe he wanted to make it look cold because it's set in Buffalo, and yeah, he successfully accomplished that. It makes you feel like you're in some winter dystopian city like that. I'm sure Buffalo is a great place, but I'm just saying it. The way he made the movie look is very symbolic of some of the themes in it. I guess I don't want to get all technical. I could be like, well, I took a film class in college, man. I learned about this stuff. I don't know anything about this stuff. Aperture. That's a word. Aperture. That's a word about photography or something. Like I just like writing stories. I respect people like Gallo who can write, direct, act. He did like the music in this shit. Yeah, that's cool, man. I don't think I could ever act. I don't think I could ever direct. Those are skills that you probably have to really go to school for and learn all the tricks of the trade. And it's weird because I write screenplays where I do voiceover and stuff, and a lot of actors probably hate that if they have to pretend they're speaking like me or something. Like, I don't know. I heard people say don't put a lot of voiceover in your screenplays, and some of mine have a good deal. Like it's probably because of my love for Goodfellas. Like, I love the voiceover narration, Ray Liotta. That's like what makes the movie for me. He's telling his story like that. And well, Buffalo 66. Let me talk about this movie real quick. I'm already at 50 minutes. I have a whole chapter devoted pretty much to this movie because it's probably my favorite movie. I could watch this once a month and really focus on it and notice something new or just enjoy the photography, the cinematography, and the acting. It's a unique experience. The writing is just so unique. The characters, the conflicts in it are weird. The symbolic Italian American aspect of it. There's a lot of cool symbolism and metaphors, and I think he really made a unique piece of art like that. I think maybe some critics kind of shit on Gallo sometimes for other reasons, probably some political stuff. But you can't deny this movie is just a classic movie, man. I've tried watching other stuff with him, either as an actor or director, and some of them are pretty interesting. But this one just hit me on every level, and yeah, I love this movie. Christina Ricci is great in this. Angelica Houston, absolutely perfect, man. And apologies, I forget the father's name, but he's just as good. Whoever plays Vincent Gallo's father is great in this. If I had to compare some of the scenes, maybe like Saturday Night Fever when Travolta is like at the dinner table with his family, it kind of reminded me of some of the scenes with Vincent Gallo's character Billy Brown when he's like at home with his family, and they're funny, man. Like, there's a humor to this that I connect with on every level. I love this movie. Uh, the way he portrays himself in it, almost like he's still stuck in this adolescent state, and it's very relatable. And I write I write about this movie in my album called Past Life Regressions. I'll mention another influence on that album is an author and inspirational speaker. Her name is Mira Kelly. You could find her on YouTube. I read her book. Um, I keep saying I'm not a new age guy. I'm not, man. I appreciate all that stuff. Like I'm a vegan. I think there. I've been a vegan for 3 years. Maybe there's a new age connection to that, where I'm trying to become like a more spiritual person, one with the universe and all that stuff. I've done the vegan thing for 3 years, but I don't even try to meditate anymore. I don't really have a spiritual life. I pretend to be sometimes. Like I want to have that stuff, some kind of a connection like that with more of the natural energy. I believe in all that stuff. The energy you put out to the universe could kind of come back to you. I know it's kind of cheesy, but even major religions have similar concepts, karma and free will, and all these complicated themes. These are in major organized religions. So you can't really shit on New Age philosophy because it's very relatable to Catholicism, Islam, Judaism, any major religion, Hinduism. There's a connective force with all these spiritual philosophies, to me at least. And I like to explore everything. I'm not a part of any organized religion, but I like to at least explore things and learn about different beliefs that people have, different worldviews, different philosophies. So Mira Kelly, she has a book about past lives and how it's like kind of reincarnation, kind of like there's, I don't want to say anything to put words in her mouth, but she kind of speaks about an oversoul within us all that kind of leads our path. Maybe there's some souls within us that experienced something in the past that caused some bodily harm to us now, or it causes some illness that we're not sure where it came from, but maybe it's something to do with a past life we had or something. Yeah, I get it, man. A lot of people will hear me talking like this and be like, this dude's out of his mind. But when I was a kid, I learned about like the Trinity because I grew up Catholic, that there's three people in one God. Like, that's not that crazy of a concept in terms of like New Age stuff. Or it's very similar to a lot of New Age stuff about past lives, reincarnation, stuff like that. Why am I bringing this up? Well, Buffalo 66 has a scene at the end, and I won't ruin it for people in case you've never seen it, but he has to make a very important life decision, and it kind of shows the outcomes of both of his decisions, whether he chooses option A or B, and it kind of goes into that past life thing, like or parallel timelines that Rick and Morty explores, and shows like Man in the High Castle explore, the OA, and what was the other, Russian Doll. They all kind of explore that parallel timelines and how one choice will have a ripple effect on your timeline and your other selves and stuff. It's crazy stuff. But yeah, I wrote an album kind of connected to that called Past Life Regressions, and it was inspired by the Mira Kelly book. I would recommend that because she can speak on it way more intelligently than I can. She can speak on it way more poetically, and her voice is awesome, man. She does public speaking. If you look her up on YouTube, her voice is just so soothing and peaceful. Like, yeah. And it was a video of her that I found where she talks about past life regressions, and it was very influential on me. It was really influential. But I have a whole chapter about that because I wrote an album based on that with maybe 6 or 8 songs, I think, called Past Life Regressions. And it's probably my most new age type of album, but I don't know if that really affects the music quality. It's probably heavier songs. with maybe like kind of a drone ambient mixed in. But to be honest, sometimes I don't even know how the songs are really going to sound until I get to the compositional part of everything. But if you've never seen Buffalo 66, back to the movie part of this conversation, go watch it. It's not that long. It's going to be one of the most unique cinematic experiences you'll probably ever have. And of course, I'm not somebody who's been through like all the foreign French films and all those artsy type of movies that are probably way weirder than this one. This one has a clear narrative. Maybe it's not exactly a three-act structure, but there is a clear narrative. There is a clear climax and conflicts in it, inner conflicts, outer conflicts, familial stuff, and just there's a dark humor and kind of just a twisted. It's a very creative movie though. There's some weird transitions and music interludes and stuff. So of these 10 movies I listed today, this one's probably the most impactful on me personally, the most influential on my stuff that I write because I try to put weird stuff like that in my movies. I'm at an hour. I'll say one more thing. Buffalo 66. There's a scene where like there's two scenes. One of them is Christina Ricci while he's bowling. Out of nowhere, she just starts dancing, and there's a whole musical number to it. Like it turns into a play almost. There's another scene with Vincent Gallo's father. Apologies, I forget the actor's name, but he's really good, and he sings like an old crooner song, "Fools Rush In," and it's like a 1 or 2 minute scene of just him singing it out of nowhere. It becomes like a music video. And in my screenplay, Seeds of Anarchy, I put something in there like that, totally inspired by Buffalo 66, where the punks and their Mexican friends they go to like a biker bar and it's full of like neo-Nazi people and tough bikers. So some shit's about to go down, and the old Mexican shaman guy puts on Karma Chameleon, Karma, 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 Karma Chameleon, and he's kind of like a magic shaman in the movie. So out of nowhere, the bar fight kind of changes to like a whole ballet where the punks and the Mexicans and all like the crazy biker dudes are all dancing together and like doing a whole ballet number to Karma Chameleon. And I wanted to add that in there because I like it when movies do that, where movies just, hey, this is a serious movie. This is a serious movie. And then out of nowhere, it's like, no, it's not. And it's just like fucking with the audience. Like, you thought this was a serious movie? Well, you were wrong because now we're 30 minutes in and we have magic, shamanic stuff out of nowhere. And we have bikers and neo Nazis dancing with Mexicans and punk kids with mohawks. Like they're all dancing like they're doing a ballet number or Circus Soleil or some shit. I like it when movies get absurd like that. So I have to say, Buffalo 66 was the inspiration for that scene and other scenes that I've written in my screenplays. Because I like it when a movie can just fuck with the audience like that and be like, oh, you thought this was a serious 3 act structure with like redeemable characters and normal storylines like a Hallmark movie? Nope. Now for something completely different. Yeah. I could have included Life of Brian too. That was another movie I talk about in my movie a little bit, or in my book. I speak of Monty Python, Life of Brian. But all right, I'm at an hour. I think this is a long enough therapy session. I'll probably have to edit some of this to make it a little bit shorter, maybe. But if you have time over the next few days, you want to watch a movie and you haven't watched any of these, or you've seen these, but it's been like over a decade since you watched them, watch them now. You'll probably notice something different because you're in a different stage of life or whatever. And that's it. Um, I'm gonna keep making videos, but tomorrow and Saturday are more my usual stuff. Tomorrow I'm gonna cover Stevie Wonder, or no, tomorrow I'm going to take one of my songs and do the anatomy of a song. I think it's called Machiavelli Villainy. I think that's the one I want to cover, or not cover, to talk about and try to compose it on my guitar. And I usually take some time to start the process. Maybe I'll do that today later on. And then Saturday, I'm going to cover Stevie Wonder, Higher Ground, which I tried to do like over 10 years ago. I found the recording of it. I wanted to cover Higher Ground and put it on one of my albums. So I had like a very raw recording of how I would do it. It's kind of completely different. So I have to teach myself again how I was doing it. I think I was using some weird tuning, so I have to figure it out today or tomorrow. So I might not make another video discussing my book until Sunday because of my other usual stuff. And I guess I'll just leave it there. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully one of these movies is interesting to you and you can go support these artists. And they're all in my book to some degree. I mentioned these books, some more than others, but movies is almost equally as important in shaping my artistic voice than as music has been. So I felt like this was a cool way to kind of change the conversation from just listing albums